been more focused on some of his for example, his ties to, I guess, the Maxwell family or Epstein
Yeah.
world, which
Yeah.
tend to go underreported. And of course, he will publicly posture like he had literally no affiliation at all with them. And I think that is definitely less than honest, and have said this in
Yeah.
detailed why. Um, in the past, and also on some of his obviously his military contracts, which are pretty significant, but some of his other ambitions as well. For example, for Twitter, openly wanting to turn it into something like WeChat, which has been criticized in the past by people on the right, which now very openly support Musk, for being kind of, for being an Orwellian system. It's basically a public-private partnership with the state for policing speech, among other things, and for mass surveillance. And it's very likely that Twitter is, moving along those same lines. And the idea of sort of having it be a one-stop shop for all your finances, which is what WeChat kind of is in China, would give Elon Musk a lot of power. Because ultimately, if we're in the age where data is the new oil, instead of having oil barons like we had, back in the 19th century, now we're basically having data barons. And so,
Yeah.
who runs the infrastructure? Who runs the apps? All of that. Musk is poised to be one of the biggest data barons of our age. And what type of
Yeah.
power comes with that? Well, it comes with the power to essentially remake society however you want. And so, his interest in technocracy, which is also shared by some of these other likely data barons of the future, like Mark Andreessen, for example, among others, should, I think, be scrutinized. And if this is the type of society we want, where we're basically going to be ruled by algorithms that are not human, and only certain people maintain those algorithms. So perhaps, it would be framed as, a more egalitarian society, and that all of society would be governed by the algorithms. But that isn't necessarily true, because you obviously
Right.
are going to have an upper class that programs and maintains the algorithms and decides what their parameters are and what they
Yeah.
do. And this is basically outlined in this book by the former Google CEO Eric Schmidt and Henry Kissinger, that this will inevitably happen when AI takes over government. And you could argue that a lot of the efforts being made by Doge, and I'm not going to say that, I'm not defending the stuff they've been ostensibly exposing, because obviously there is a lot of corruption and pork, like just like there's pork in the spending bills. Obviously, there was plenty of that in
Right.
in the public sector, and I don't really think it should be that surprising. But the question is, what is that? What changes is that used to justify? And pretty much across the board, it's putting, AI in greater control of government. So if you're if it's your AI, for example, in the case of Elon Musk Grok, right, or if it's OpenAI in the case of Sam Altman, and your algorithm has replaced the jobs of 20,000 people, then you have the arguably the influence that those 20,000 workers had on the organization that's
Yeah.
employing you, or now your algorithm. So,
Well,
there's a lot of things to be discussed here. And even if people like Elon, it's very complicated to argue that you're furthering the cause of liberty and freedom and all of that when you're centralizing power to such a significant degree and cheerleading that on. And also a lot of policies that Elon Musk has long championed, the right doesn't like carbon pricing, carbon taxes, things like that. Actually, a lot of public policies that Musk has long supported are policies that have long been supported by entities like the World Economic Forum.
yeah.
But now, it has a very different sales pitch behind it. A lot of these policies are being framed as libertarian, but
Right.
there's a lot more. I think people should look less at the sales pitch and more on what these policies functionally mean. So, as an
Yeah.
example, you have the political philosopher who's like the supposed house philosopher of the PayPal mafia, Curtis Yarvin. And Curtis Yarvin has a quote that could have come from Klaus Schwab or Yuval Noah Harari about how the masses need to be dealt with, and that it's a humane alternative to genocide to have people in pods plugged into a virtual world to entertain them, and basically be like waxed like bees in a beehive, and basically being plugged into the metaverse or something.
Yeah.
I mean, how is that really functionally different? I guess in Yarvin's argument, he would say, well, it would be, a corporation or a gov corp, a governing corporation, or a public private partnership, I guess, that would, put you in a pod and control the metaverse. That isn't
Yeah.
really that functionally different. And
The
if people can be convinced to buy, Teslas after that was the liberal car, on the right just to own the libs. I mean, I think it wouldn't be that hard to make a sizable demographic exist that would get Neuralink in a few years just to own the libs and things like
Hmm.
that. It's kind of a slippery slope, and I think people sometimes are naive about how easily we can be manipulated, oftentimes through the engineering and manufacture of celebrities that are pushed in front of us.
Yep.
And the way that algorithms can do that now is extreme because they've harvested so much data about us. They have profiled us so extensively. They know exactly what to show you to get you to be persuaded about certain things,
Yeah.
depending on what demographic you're in.
We are
Um,
definitely easy to manipulate and guide in the direction that